Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Astotra Satta Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Astotra Satta Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Rup Shri Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath, Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath Shadgoshai Prabhu Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi, Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopal Gopinath, Shama Kund Radha Kund, Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Transcendental Prasadam Distribution Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada's Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the divine lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनातीरावनचारी यमुनातीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Guru Deva, 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 Jaya Guru Deva. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai. Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Today we are reading from Canto 11, Chapter 12, titled Beyond Renunciation and Knowledge, and Text 17. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Saesha Jivo Vivara Prasuti Pranena Goshena Guham Pravishta Manomayam Sukshmamupetya Rupam Matra swaro varna iti sthavistraha. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Saesha Jivo Vivara Prasuti. Pranena Ghoshena Guham Pravishtaha. Manomayam Sukshmamupetya Rupam. Matra Swaro Varna iti Stavishtaha. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Saesha Jivo Vivara Prasuti. Pranena Ghoshena Guham Pravishtaha. Manomayam Sukshmamupetya Rupam. Matra Swaro Varna iti Stavishtaha. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Saesha Jivo Vivara Prasuti. Pranena Ghoshena Guham Pravishtaha. Manomayam Sukshmamupetya Rupam. Matra Swaro Varna iti Stavishtaha. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Saesha Jivo Vivara Prasuti. Pranena Ghoshena Guham Pravishtaha. Manomayam Sukshmamupetya Rupam. Matra Swaro Varna iti Stavishtaha. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Saesha Jivo Vivara Prasuti. Pranena Ghoshena Guham Pravishtaha. Manomayam Sukshmamupetya Rupam. Matra Swaro Varna iti Stavishtaha. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Saesha Jivo Vivara Prasuti. Pranena Ghoshena Guham Pratishta. Manomayam Sukshmamupetya Rupam. Matra Swaro Varna iti Stavishtaha. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Saesha Jivo Vivara Prasuti. Pranena Ghoshena Guham Pravishtaha. Manomayam Sukshmamupetya Rupam. Stavishtaha. Matra Swaro Varna iti Stavishtaha. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Sa Eshaha, He Himself, Jivaha, the Supreme Lord, who gives life to all, Vivara, within the heart, Prasutihi, manifest, Pranena, along with the life air, Goshena, with the subtle manifestation of sound, Guham, the heart, Pravishtaha, who has entered, Manahamayam, perceived by the mind, are controlling the mind, even of great demigods like Lord Shiva. Sukshmam, subtle, Upetya, being situated in Rupam, the form, Matra, the different vocalic lengths, Swaraha, the different intonations, Varnaha, the different sounds of the alphabet, Iti, thus, Stavishtaha, the gross form. Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Uddhava, the Supreme Lord gives life to every living being and is situated within the heart along with the life air and primal sound vibration. The Lord can be perceived in His subtle form within the heart by one's mind, since the Lord controls the minds of everyone, even great demigods like Lord Shiva. The Supreme Lord also assumes a gross form as the various sounds of the Vedas, composed of short and long vowels and consonants of different intonations." Anybody who has the microphone? Okay. Want to read the purport?
Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments as follows on the dialogue between Lord Krishna and Uddhava. Uddhava was bewildered and doubtful because Lord Krishna explained many different processes such as devotional service, speculative knowledge, renunciation, mystic yoga, austerities, pious duties, and so on. However, all of these processes are meant to help the living entities obtain the shelter of Lord Krishna. And ultimately, no Vedic process should be understood in any other way. Thus, Lord Krishna explained the entire Vedic system, placing everything in proper order. In fact, Lord Krishna was surprised that Uddhava foolishly thought that he was meant to practice every process, as if each method were meant simply for him. Lord Krishna therefore wants to inform his devotee, "My dear Uddhava, when I told you that analytic knowledge is to be practiced, pious duties are to be performed, devotional service is obligatory, yoga procedures must be observed, austerities are to be executed, etc., I was instructing all living entities, using you as my immediate audience. That which I have spoken, am speaking now, and will speak in the future, should be understood as guidance for all living entities in different situations. How could you possibly think that you were meant to practice all of the different Vedic processes? I accept you as you are now, my pure devotee. You're not supposed to execute all of these processes." Thus, according to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the Lord, with light-hearted and encouraging words, reveals to Uddhava the deep purpose behind the variety of Vedic procedures.
Sure. Can I use your phone? Lord Krishna became manifest from the mouth of Lord Brahma in the form of the Vedas. The word Vivara Prasuti in this verse also indicates that the Lord is manifest within the Adharadi chakras situated within the body of Lord Brahma. The word Koshena means subtle sound, and Guhang Pravishtaha also indicates that Lord Krishna enters within the Adhara chakra. The Lord can further be perceived within other chakras, such as the Manipuraka chakra, located around the navel, and the Vishuddhi chakra. The Sanskrit alphabet is composed of short and long vowels and consonants pronounced with high and low tones, and utilizing these vibrations, the different branches of Vedic literatures are manifested as a gross form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. According to Bhagavad Gita, such literatures deal mostly with the three modes of material nature: Trigunya Vishaya Veda Nis Trigunyo Pavarjuna. Srila Sridhar Swami explains that due to the control of the illusory energy, Maya, the personality of Godhead appears to the conditioned souls as part of the material universe. The imagined imposition of gross and subtle material qualities on the personality of Godhead is called avidya, or ignorance. And through such ignorance, the living entity considers himself to be the doer of his own activities and becomes bound up in the network of karma. The Vedas therefore order an entangled soul to observe positive and negative injunctions to purify his existence. These procedures are called pravritti marg, or the path of regulated fruitive activities. When one has purified one's existence, one gives up this gross stage of fruitive activities because it is detrimental to the practice of pure devotional service. By firm faith, one may then worship the personality of Godhead. One who has developed perfect Krishna consciousness no longer has to perform ritualistic duties. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, tasya karyam navidyate.
According to Srila Jiva Goswami, this verse may be understood in another way. The word Jiva indicates Lord Krishna, who gives life to the residents of Vrindavan. And Vivara Prasuti indicates that although Lord Krishna eternally performs his pastimes in the spiritual world beyond the vision of the conditioned souls, he also enters within the material universe to display these same pastimes. The words Guham Pravishtaha indicates that after displaying such pastimes, the Lord withdraws them and enters into his unmanifest pastimes, or those pastimes not manifest to the conditioned souls. In this case, Matra indicates the transcendental senses of the Lord. Swara indicates the Lord's transcendental sound vibration and singing, and the word Varna indicates the transcendental form of the Lord. The word stavishta, or gross manifestation, means that the Lord becomes manifest in the material world even to those devotees who are not completely advanced in Krishna consciousness and whose vision is not completely purified. Manomaya indicates that somehow or other Lord Krishna is to be kept within one's mind, and for the non-devotees, Lord Krishna is sukshma, or most subtle, because he cannot be known. Thus different acharyas have glorified Lord Krishna in different ways through the transcendental sound vibration of this verse.
Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chaksharanmilitamena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Romapada Swamini Namine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachacha Deshatane Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namo He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. All right, so we are, just to catch up, Lord Krishna, for the last, I think, 2 chapters, he has been describing the different methods on how to perfect the spiritual, one's spiritual life. So, anybody remembers what were the different processes that he prescribed? So he first starts with karma mishra bhakti. Right? Basically, he says that follow the varnashrama system and perform devotion and also your prescribed duties within the varnashrama system. So he prescribes that. At least that's what Uddhava understood. And then he prescribes Jnana Mishra Bhakti. Basically, then he says that you have to retire from the worldly duties and cultivate knowledge and accepting him as the supreme. So that's Jnana Mishra Bhakti. And then he goes on to explain how even that is, then he goes on to explain about devotional service, bhakti actually, and then he also explains on how one can develop or one can enhance their bhakti by association of the devotees. And then Uddhava inquires about how, what are the means and ways one can actually get perfection of the devotional service. And and then Krishna explains that unless otherwise one takes the association and shelter of the devotees, they won't be able to progress on the devotional service, and in any attempt to get into liberation is all useless. And so he goes on to explain these different processes to Uddhava in terms of how one should proceed. So in the previous verse, Uddhava kind of poses the question that it's all well and good that you have explained so many different processes, but I'm still kind of, not exactly sure what is your final opinion. So he actually says that my mind is bewildered, and so I have the doubt that's not going away from my heart. So please clarify. And so this next few set of verses are supposed to be the clarification of what is the essence of all the instructions that he gave in the last 2 or 3 chapters. But looks like it gets complicated, even that answer, because as it's explained in the purport, the different acharyas understood or explained what Krishna is saying in different ways. So in one sense, actually, it's very clear, because the Lord is actually explaining that ultimately bhakti is the ultimate process. But at the same time, he is qualifying that statement. The reason, or he's qualifying why he prescribed all these other processes. Why did he describe all these other processes? So that it's not for Uddhava, actually, these instructions that he has been giving. That's what he wants to clarify in these next few verses, is that the instructions that I have been giving is actually for the entire set of the living beings. And why he would prescribe something like karma mishra bhakti or jnana mishra bhakti, if he also says that bhakti is the ultimate destination? Why would he do that?
Well, it relates to his instruction in the Bhagavad Gita, where he's saying he gives the highest stage for a living entity. He says, take up this practice, just fix your mind on me, serve me with love and devotion. But if you can't do that, if you're not capable, then here's another thing you can do. You can practice the rules and regulations of bhakti, and on to just giving up the fruits of your work. So it's a way to actually accommodate everyone, regardless of where they are in consciousness. everyone can make progress.
Very nice. Yeah, so he is giving these instructions or giving these different processes based on the qualifications of the living entities. So if a living entity is only qualified to only perform the worldly duties, then karma mishra bhakti is probably that's where he needs to start, right? I mean, even when we go out for book distribution or preaching also, I mean, we have to kind of tone down what we want to say or tone up, right? Depending on who we are talking to, right? If a person completely has no faith in God or no faith in any scripture or anything, then you have to probably start from a basic thing. Whereas, I mean, if you are talking about somebody who seems to be somewhat knowledgeable about spiritual topics, then you can go little higher in your discussion or in your preaching so that they can grasp that what you're saying. And of course, it's also, I mean, even in Bhagavad Gita, it says that, the Lord says that what is the primary thing that somebody needs in order for them to approach or practice bhakti? They have to have faith, right? Shraddha. Without Shraddha or without faith in Lord Krishna, you cannot even understand what Krishna is saying. I mean, it's not only in case of Krishna, but anybody. I mean, even in the material world, we don't hear to any personality without understanding or knowing or having some faith in him or his expertise in that particular subject matter, right? We don't take advice of stock market from a grocery guy or something. Same thing. So, of course, the Lord is explaining in this verse. If we go back to this verse, he's talking about how he manifests through in the form of Vedas, and then he goes on to more details in the next verse, in the next few verses. So he's again starting from the basics. So he says that the Vedas, how the Vedas manifest, and even the Vedas he explains in this particular verse as Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur kind of gave the details, how the Vedas manifest in different stages, right? So initially he says that the Vedas actually manifest in 4 different stages, and it's also associated with the different chakras of the body of Brahma. And so he says that because the Vedas came through Brahma, right? So he says that initially the first stage is it's called absolute spiritual stage, and it's manifest. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that it manifests through the Adhara chakra, that is the Moola chakra, the base chakra in the body of Lord Brahma. So Krishna gives that initially kind of gives that through that chakra, and then the sound of that Vedic sound rises to the navel, which is I think Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur calls it Manipuraka chakra, and then from the navel, then it goes to heart. The chakra in the heart, which is known as Anahata chakra, and then the sound actually manifests in the form of syllables of the Vedas, the way we hear or the way we speak, in the form of, through the Vishuddha chakra. So these are the different stages that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains how the Vedic sound of the syllables actually manifests through the body of Brahma, and then it comes out, the Vedic sound. So even though the question might arise that the Vedas are the original Vedic syllables, the Vedic sounds are spiritual, right? I mean, because the Lord actually manifested in the form of those Vedic sounds or Vedic syllables. So how can we as material living beings living in the material world be able to hear or speak?
It seems like that's the reason why he manifests the Vedas through Lord Brahma. Because I guess through Lord Brahma's agency, then the living entities are able to actually receive and understand the Vedas to some extent.
And also the other clarification that our acharyas make is that the Vedic sounds, even though we are able to hear through our material senses or speak through our material senses, they are still spiritual in nature. Their spiritual potency, just like when the Lord appears in the material world, he is still have a spiritual form. He's not taking a material. I mean, we have gone through so many different, we have been reading through different incarnations and different manifestations of the Lord. So the Lord actually, just like the Lord appears in different incarnations in his spiritual form, even this, when he manifests in this form of the Vedic sounds and syllables, he is manifesting in the form of the spiritual nature. It's not, these sounds and syllables are not material in nature. So, and it's the same thing that the Lord appears the way manifests in the form of Vedas, and also he manifests for different different jivas in different ways. So, like for people who are performing karma yoga, the Lord manifests his energy through material objects, so that they can actually perform their karma mishra bhakti through those material objects. And the same thing in the form of when he manifests in the form of jnana yoga, what does he manifest as? Through the impersonal Brahman, because that's what the jnana, the people of jnana mishra bhakti, they are kind of focusing on the impersonal Brahman aspect of it. And for people who are practicing Ashtanga yoga, or that process, how does the Lord manifest? In the form of siddhis. So they get different siddhis. So that's how they connect to the Lord. And the same thing in the when you are for people who are following bhakti yoga, how does the Lord manifest? In the form of Bhagavan, right? So the Lord is one, but he manifests in different ways to different types of people based on their qualification. And it's not, that doesn't mean that these are equal realizations, like the impersonal Brahman or Jai Shri Radha Nilamadava ki Jai, Shri Radha Giridhari ki Jai, Shri Giriraj Govardhan ki Jai, Shri Nitai Gaurachand Nitai Chaitanya Chandra ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Srila Gurudev ki Jai. So, just because, the argument might come, oh, the Lord is manifesting these different forms based on different qualifications, so there I mean, they should be almost the same or one and the same. But that's not true, as we know, because these are not equal realizations. And actually, that knowledge, the argument that people put, Brahman or Paramatma and Bhagavan are the same, is actually called Advaita Jnana, and which we don't follow. And Lord explains in various ways in the previous chapters, as well as in Bhagavad Gita, that the realization of Brahman is not as complete as the realization of the Paramatma. And the same way, the realization of Paramatma is not as complete realization as Bhagavan. Right? And of course, there are different analogies provided by our acharyas. What is one analogy? Oh, I didn't hear that one. What is the hill and the distance one?
Well, they give the example that from a distant place, a hill might just look like a cloud. It seems like it has like not really much form. But then as you approach, you see like the hill, but you don't really see any details. So you see the form and everything, but you can't really make out what it is. And then when you get onto the hill, then you see that there's so many trees and plants and animals and so much variety.
So the cloud. He didn't hear it.
Can I tell you later?
So the farm, I guess the analogy that he's giving is the mountain or hill, and from I guess the closest the cloud is the Brahman realization, I suppose. Yeah. So the cloud, people see the hill from a distance, and they see it looks like a cloud. So that's kind of analogous to the Brahman realization. And then some people, as they get closer, and they actually see a hill. So that's like a Paramatma realization. And then when somebody actually gets onto the mountain or the hill, then he will see the different trees and things and herbs and things. And so he actually sees the purpose of the hill. So that's Bhagavan realization. Even though all of them are looking at the same object, and it's manifesting it's manifesting as a hill, but people's realizations are not complete from one sense. And I guess anybody else wants to share another analogy?
Just think about the sun and the sun rays, which are the impersonal realization, while the actual sun is.
So the sunlight is like Brahman, right? And then
I miss the Paramatma between this. I think like the sun is Bhagavan.
And then the actual sun planet, if you go to sun planet and there are different entities there, that's like actual Bhagavan realization. Right? And anybody else?
Prabhupada's also given the one of the train. Someone who's on the track, or if they're like in a village or somewhere where there hasn't been a train before, no one's ever seen it, and it's coming for the first time. They're waiting for some time, and then they see in the distance a light coming forward. The train has a big light on the front. And they
light
see that
and smoke. That's what Prabhupada says, because our old trains used to be steam trains. So.
Yes, so they see that from the distance, and they think, oh, okay, there's the train. I can go. And they go back home, and they tell everybody that they saw the train, and it was a big light in the distance. And then some other people stayed longer, and the train got closer, and they see the train go by, like pulling up, and it's this big thing, and it makes noise, and there was this big train. I don't know. And then they see that, and they say, okay, I've seen the train. So they go back and they tell everybody it's this big long thing.
That's Paramatma, right?
Yeah, that'd be like the second stage. And then those people who stayed even longer, they saw the train stop, and the doors open, they get in, and there's people and there's activities, and you can eat or sleep or something. Yeah, that's compared to Bhagavan.
Bhagavan, yeah. So, very nice. I don't know if I missed anything else, if anybody else has any other examples. But so according to one's qualification, we get different grades of realizations of Lord. But the Lord prescribes in the previous verses, as well as in the next few verses, He is going to clarify that the Bhagavan realization is the process that gives the Bhagavan realization is the best process. And so one should actually, that should be the goal. And in fact, he says that is the goal of all the other processes. So even though you follow Karma Mishra Bhakti, or because you're only qualified at that level, or you follow Jnana Mishra Bhakti, or you follow Ashtanga Yoga, or whatever those principles, but ultimately the goal of all these other processes is to reach the Bhakti Yoga, or to come to the realization of Bhagavan form. So basically he's trying to clarify to Uddhava and also clarify to all of us that even though he has gone through the description of these various processes, his recommendation to Uddhava is follow bhakti process. Right? That's the same thing that even in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says that Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Raja Aham Tva Sarva Papebhyo Mokshayishyami Ma Shucha. So forget about all the things that I have mentioned before, just surrender unto me. So that is the best process. And even in the he will explain, or it's explained by our acharyas, that even in the practice of bhakti, there are different stages, right? We know that what are the different stages of bhakti? Joe? Uh-huh. What is lotus flower? There's a picture of the bhakti about the beach. Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
It's like sadhana bhakti.
So sadhana bhakti is the starting, I guess Shraddha starts with Shraddha, but sadhana bhakti is the starting point. So then
Sadhu Sangha.
Sadhu Sangha and Bhajana Kriya, and then what else? Anartha Nivritti and Nishtha, Ruchi, Asakti, and Bhava and Prema, right? So actually it is described that up to Bhava we perform sadhana bhakti, and in fact a person reaches to Bhava bhakti, they do not have the direct realization of the Lord. So they are basically they have indirect realization through the holy names and through the process of devotion that they are doing. And so when one gets to the Bhava Bhakti stage, then they will get the direct realization of the Lord. But it is also described that even that realization of the Lord at the Bhava Bhakti stage is not as complete as the realization of the Lord when one is in Prema Bhakti. So that's why it is said that even somebody goes to all the way to Bhava Bhakti, they might still kind of not make that final leap kind of thing into the Prema Bhakti, right? So obviously ordinary people in this world are not qualified to that level. So that's why we are prescribed to follow the sadhana bhakti and take the association of those pure devotees who are actually have experienced that Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti stage. and so that we can actually realize the form of the Lord, realize the realization of our Lord comes through those our acharyas, those devotees, those pure devotees. So in our case, I mean, we our direct realization of Lord is through Srila Prabhupada and his teachings, right? So that's what. So that's why the Lord prescribed us that for most of the ordinary people they have to start at sadhana bhakti, and it's of course it's the same as we talked before. If people are not qualified even to even come to the stage of sadhana bhakti, so they have to start with karma yoga or jnana yoga, or those processes, right? So, and of course, Srila Jiva Goswami actually explains the same text with a different understanding, and he explains that it's actually, he's relating, Lord Krishna is relating in this verse on how he gives life to the residents of Vrindavan because they are completely surrendered souls, and how he performs the various his pastimes in the spiritual world, and even so it's a little different explanation, but the essence is, I mean, in the next few verses actually it kind of clarifies that then the essence is that follow the process of bhakti if you're qualified. If you're not qualified, then start somewhere. But ultimately the goal is bhakti. Today also is the disappearance day of one of the Vaishnavas, associates of Lord Chaitanya, Saranga Thakur. I was reminded last night that you are disappearing. So I told them that my Guru Maharaj specifically mentioned that he explained the whole, when he gave me the name, and he said, he explained the whole pastime of Saranga Thakur, and then he said, "You are Das." So I'm not disappearing, but hopefully. Saranga Thakur was a close associate of Lord Chaitanya, as was explained to me. And he actually resided on the Godruma Dvipa, Mamagachi, which is on the other bank of Ganga, from Srina, I guess, Navadvip, not Navadvip, Antardvip. So where Lord Chaitanya used to stay and have his pastimes. So it is described that Lord Chaitanya used to go every day for noon bath to Saranga Thakur's side, and he used to have association with Saranga Thakur, or Saranga Thakur used to have association with the Lord. And then the Lord, they used to have a lot of discussions, and at that point Saranga Thakur was a very nice devotee, exalted personality, learned personality, but he was not taking any disciples because he was also very humble. So he didn't want it to take any disciples. And so Lord Chaitanya instructed him to take, used to instruct him regularly that you should take disciples. And so one day basically Lord Chaitanya instructed him that whoever you see tomorrow morning, first thing in the morning, you take him as your disciple. And so the next morning, Saranga Thakur, early in the morning before the sunrise, he goes to take bath in Ganga. and then he comes across a dead body of a 12-year-old boy, a 10 to 12-year-old boy. And so it is actually described that Lord Chaitanya was also present there, and he instructs Saranga Thakur, you have to initiate him. And so also Saranga Thakur takes the instruction of Lord Chaitanya as to his heart, and so he gives him he utters the mantra in the ear of this dead boy, and then the boy comes to life. And then the boy, he tells his name as Murari, and he says that I would like to accept you as my spiritual master, and I would like to serve you eternally. And so that boy Murari, he goes on to become one of the leading, preachers after Lord Chaitanya's departure in the Navadvip area. And so I think his whole name is Murari Chaitanya Das, I think, right? Murari Chaitanya. So he goes on to, so even to date, if you go to Mamagachi, there is a beautiful temple where Saranga Thakur resided, and in the speciality of the temple is, of course, Saranga Thakur's deities are Radha Gopinath, so the deities are still being worshipped since last 500 years plus. And also in the courtyard, you will see a tree. I don't know what kind of tree it was, but it's a hollow. It's completely hollow from inside, and but it's really has very vibrant branches. And the story goes like Lord Chaitanya used to visit Saranga Thakur every day. He saw this tree almost dying, actually died, and so he tells Saranga Thakur, what's going on with this tree? It's completely dying. And Saranga Thakur tells Chaitanya, I don't know, Lord, I mean, it's just looks like it's dead. And so Lord Chaitanya goes and hugs the tree, gives a firm embrace, and it is said that actually gave the life to the tree. So even though it is completely hollow, you can actually see the tree trunk. It's completely hollow, but it's still, for the last 500 years plus, it's still growing. So, all right, I think we will end it there. Any comments, discussion? Yes.
I was just thinking about how badly Krishna wants us. He's able to accommodate everything, and just, he knows, like, if you're a certain way, he'll accommodate it. And I was just meditating on that, and how kind and how easy it is to, like, do something that's way harder, but he gives us the ability to try it and see if that works for us, and then if it doesn't, there's something else we can try. So yeah, I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, he actually comes down to our level to kind of give us his mercy. So jai Shri Radha Nila Madhava ki jai, Shri Radha Giridhari ki jai, Shri Giriraj Govardhan ki jai, Shri Nitai Gaurachandra Nitai Chaitanya Chandra ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bo, Grandaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada